The team's been really hard at work. We're on the final phase of just polishing things up, dialing in the performance, and really just getting rid of the last bugs that are there. So it's really close. We're really excited, and it's looking really good. Grand Oak is a super wide and flowing track, which you probably saw in that video, and it's got some great high-speed sweepers, big elevation changes, but with a couple technical bits that remind me a little bit of VIR. While all the layouts allow high-performance cars to stretch their legs, players will find that this track has been designed to teach you about carrying speed through corners. So even lower performance cars give you plenty of exciting things to master here. This wide track, paired with its technical challenges, provide a great location for players to experience clean and competitive racing and to hone their racecraft with both AI and other players. So everyone can check out these additions on our social channels after the show, but here's a quick look at another 30 some odd cars. I think the Porsche Taycan, the Turbo S, and the BMW M8 Competition Coupe in particular will be a lot of fun to speed around Grand Oak. To start, I just want to let everyone know we've invested heavily in the multiplayer experience for the new Forza Motorsport. Our goal of clean and competitive racing is supported by features such as driver and safety ratings, a machine learning powered rules and regulation system that everyone probably knows as Forza Race Regulations or FRR, the race weekend structure with scheduled events and qualifying, car performance balancing, new tire compounds, and a whole lot more. Feature multiplayer debuts our all-new race weekend structure. Each racing series in featured multiplayer has a live, real-world, time-based updated list of current and scheduled upcoming events. And there should always be something for you to jump into when you're ready to race. This new online racing mode completely replaces and improves upon the hoppers and league experiences from previous games. Now, there are two different types of events in featured multiplayer: our Spec Series and our Open Series. Spec Series allows you to take highly tuned and balanced machines, mostly race cars, and it's all about pure competition. At launch, we're targeting two series that you can always expect to see on this schedule: GT and touring cars. We will also be featuring a rotating Spec Series to celebrate other racing divisions and one makes. And that brings us to the other side of things, the Open Series. In the Open Series, it's where you can bring any car that meets the class restrictions. The additional element here of choice means you'll never know exactly what you'll be competing against until you get on the track. The Open Series will also be rotating through the various car classes on a weekly basis. In each event, you and the people that you're matched with will go through all of the phases of the race weekend as a group, going through open practice, qualifying, and then the featured race together creates an exciting experience that evolves and intensifies as everyone gets ready for the big race. So first, in open practice, you'll have a little bit of time to get comfortable with that car-track combo and dial in your tire compound and even your fuel load. At any time before the featured race start, you can jump right into the qualifying session. Here, you'll have a limited number of laps, and your best time will determine your starting position at the beginning of the featured race. Now, keep in mind, you can also choose your tire compound and your fuel load specifically for qualifying, so you can always dial that in to maximize your time. It's also worth mentioning that we have a new feature, Skip Lap. Now, Skip Lap will be available in both open practice and the qualifying phases of a scheduled event to get a rolling start on a fresh lap if necessary. However, using that skip lap during qualifying will cost you that current lap, so use it sparingly and only when you really need it. And when you're done with qualifying, it's time for the featured race. There's a lot of stuff here, and one of the things I want to really focus on is our Forza racing regulations, or FRR. We've had a lot of advancements here, and I really want to let everyone know we've used machine learning this time around to completely overhaul FRR. FRR can now identify nearly 5,000 unique racing incidents, including track cutting, intentional collisions, and dirty driving. And FRR will award penalties accordingly. It will even disqualify you if an incident is serious enough. Now, this new machine learning model also allows us to continually fine-tune the system and even add new racing incidents as time goes on. So one of the cool things here is that FRR has allowed us to remove all of those tire walls that everyone loved so much in the previous game that we put in to prevent track cutting. So those are all gone. And we've also redrawn all of our track limits that allow the use of a lot more of the track and is just that much more authentic. So we once again, with clean and competitive racing, we really want to make sure that players are matching with other players who are looking for similar types of racing, right? So improving matchmaking is a big component of what we've been doing. So driver ratings here. Driver ratings are skill-based and uses a new version of true skill that is powered by machine learning. Safety ratings are influenced by on-track behavior and are directly related to your FRR penalties, matching you with other players who drive in a similar manner to you. Also of note, we have a qualifier series. Now, the qualifier series is only for players entering featured multiplayer for the very first time. This series of a number of, just a few number of races really helps you get accustomed to the new rules and the new flow of the whole featured multiplayer event. And it also serves as a new basis for your driver and your safety ratings before joining the standard spec or open series that we talked about a little bit before. So this improved matchmaking system can work its magic. So whether it's changing your tires, taking on more fuel, repairing damage, pitting is where the action, of course, happens. So in the new Forza Motorsport, we've added 3 racing tire compounds. I've talked about them a lot, so you all know that we have the softs, the mediums, the hards, and even the wet tire compounds, and they all have those differing grip and wear characteristics. Now, while all tires degrade over time, if you have the simulated tire damage on, the racing tire compounds will wear the quickest. So keep an eye on the tire wear indicator located next to each tire in the HUD. And when the tires are yellow, they're moderately worn, and you'll start to feel the tires kind of go off and lose their grip. When they're red, you have the least grip, and you really should pull in the pits to get those new tires. So in featured multiplayer, when you land in open practice, you can select your fuel load and your tire compound if you're running that race tire. Private multiplayer, just so everyone is up to speed, lets you set up the racing that you and your friends want. So you can choose from a variety of game modes like circuit race, timed race, multi-class, and even meetups. Here, you can pick the car class and the track, customize the race length, numerous racing options and restrictions, and of course, dial the level of FRR and a ton of other options. There are even some rule presets here where you can choose the kind of racing you want to prioritize, from a relaxed race with limited penalties and no race strategy, to a fully competitive event with strict penalties and required pit stops and, of course, simulated damage. Options in private multiplayer, well, there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to go through a few of them here so we can really explore these incredible new options. We have the access to the 24-hour dynamic time of day with adjustable time scaling, weather, dynamic track rubbering, custom FRR, damage, and additional ghosting rules. And other options include things like grid ordering, mandatory pit stops, support for up to 4 teams, and support for specific assist and camera overrides. Car restrictions include min and max power and weight, alongside a number of car configuration specifications like drive type or aspiration. Whew, that was a mouthful. All right. It's also worth noting that private multiplayer lobbies are not affected by safety or driver ratings, and similarly, matches in private lobbies don't affect your safety and driver ratings. Rivals includes the classic Forza Motorsport Rivals event, along with Time Attack. Now, this is the place for competing with everyone in the world for the fastest lap times. Rivals in Forza Motorsport is where you're invited to really push yourself in the car to shave off every possible millisecond on a selected car-truck combo. Rivals events will feature a pre-built and tuned car that is always available for rent for free, so you can jump right into the action. Now, Time Attack will also be available at launch, where you can build and tune a car to your chosen PI class and attempt to set the fastest time possible. Wanted to note, we have some additional features in Rivals. Rivals events allow you to more easily select your starting rival or your training ghost, and also includes that skip lap option we talked about before to make your time here in Rivals that much more efficient. The car mastery sector scoring and timing will also be available here to help you shave off that last thousandth of a second on your time. The competitive racing that we wanted to have in featured multiplayer with full fields for great racing, unfortunately, means that our spectate mode is not in for launch. Having players come into a featured multiplayer event and taking player slots and then spectating is not really the racing that we had intended. Similarly, racing with AI in featured multiplayer with all its potential impacts on your safety rating also didn't make a whole lot of sense to have, and is not going to be available for us at launch. And since we're on the topic of some legacy features that aren't in at launch, our heavy investment in pushing our new graphical features and our complete overhaul of the rendering engine unfortunately made split screen really difficult to implement, and is also not going to be in for launch. Ooh, that is a tough question, and so I'm going to take some time to address this, since this is a really complex answer, and I believe there are several assumptions that are probably behind that question or those concerns. So let me try to put this whole picture together, since there are many details here. So let's start with spec racing. In the spec racing series in featured multiplayer, and in Rivals, all cars are homologated and tuned and balanced from the moment you get in them. This means all cars in these series are purpose-tuned and built at level 1 to be competitive. No unlocks or leveling are necessary here for these cars to compete. Of course, you can always rent these cars for free, see which car you like, and jump right into the action. Now, cars in the spec series in featured multiplayer and in Rivals will of course gain XP and level just like everywhere else in the game. So you can easily level up these cars for use in the Open Series in featured multiplayer, or even in the Builders Cup. Now that's the spec side of things. Now the Open Series. In the Open Series, private multiplayer, or Time Attack, what you bring is up to you. Cars may need to be leveled here to install the upgrades you want to build to your desired PI target. And you can always rent cars here, but of course they'll be stock performance and you won't be gaining XP or your levels there for the rentals. And this brings me to the larger picture of how we are providing some guide rails for you to explore the over 500 cars that we have at launch. Every week, the rotating spec and Open Series that we talked about in featured multiplayer change to new ones every week. That means new one-make and class-based series are available and focus the competition on that week-to-week basis, and helps you with your car builds and your car progression. The rotating spec and Open Series can shift how the community at large focus their time and how they progress their cars. And that is in addition to all of the car progression that people will be making with cars in the Builders Cup and of course with Rivals. So, if you're a community organizer, you can use this knowledge of Builders Cup cars, spec cars found in featured multiplayer, and this weekly heartbeat of these rotating series to help you build your events and quickly grow that list of potential cars for all of your racing. Now, if you're a competitor, you can use this weekly heartbeat to help you focus your progression of your cars and test out builds while you're enjoying all of the game's content. So this is the first phase of our online racing for the new Forza Motorsport. With this over 500 car list available for players on day one, we want to ensure that the experience offered here provides some guide rails for both the community organizers and competitors alike, while also delivering on this goal of falling in love with cars.